Bryce, man, it's great to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me. This is just amazing to be back. So
Yeah, awesome. Tell everybody what you do.
I'm an attorney and I own a law firm, and we specialize in helping people that have found themselves victims of financial abuse primarily, and we help them through a variety of different ways in a lot of different industries, but we don't represent any businesses or corporations. It's only individual people that are going through struggles with bullies, people that are pushing them around. So,
What's the name of the law firm?
It's Bell Law LLC.
So it's interesting, right? Like, we've been in a business relationship for 7 years now, and you've done so many amazing things, but I'd like to take it all the way back to the beginning. What was your life like, and what was your business like before we started working together?
I think the most vivid snapshot would be about 10 years ago. And, really, I wanted to quit the practice of law, to be honest with you. I had my own firm, but there was no employees, and I was not in a practice area doing work that I really love to do. And I think it was through actually working with, one of your people that you've worked with, Arjan, who now owns How to Manage a Small Law Firm.
Yeah.
And that is kind of back in 2013 what kind of started the trajectory towards, I think sometimes when people get frustrated, it's, there's something deeper inside of you, but you don't have any idea how to get it out of you.
Like from a be more, do more, have more perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%, just being able to live a life, that not only with financial freedom, which you teach people, but just to be able to express yourself as a human being the way you naturally are, authentically.
Was there anything specific that was happening during that time that was causing you to feel like you knew that there was more there?
I think there was a lot of different things. I don't know if there was just one thing. I think sometimes you start on a path and you're not really sure how you got there. You end up at a point in your life, and I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, I'm miserable. I mean, I don't enjoy life. There's really nothing, that I really authentically, truly love experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And you want to escape, right? When you've built something like that for yourself. But I have the desire, to do something greater. And that's where, but you don't know how. You don't know, like looking back on the path right now, I mean, there's so many twists and turns of how we got here. I mean, it's, you can never predict that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you're saying that I find interesting, and this happened with me, although I will admit I was a little bit younger, but I've been in a business for 24 years, helping people build businesses and really live their dream. And with everybody I've ever worked with, they start off with they've got information all of their life on how to be successful in kind of like a normal way, like how they've been set up going to school or church or their parents or whatever. And they come out with a set of rules and a viewpoint on how to see the world, and they start really going after it. And then at some point, like you mentioned, something in their mind goes, something's not right here, right? They're not happy, they're not fulfilled, they're not making enough, the amount of money that they want to make. They can't see how to go further. They may be looking at the people that they're working with and going, this is not the crew that I really want to jive with. And yet there's this idea in their mind, and I know this for me because this is what I was told, like, you just kind of have to shut up and deal with it, right? Because that's what life is. You're expecting too much out of what's going on. And that's a weird place to wake up one day and see yourself in that. So when you started to realize that, how long was it from the time you started to realize until you actually started looking to do something about it?
I would say at least, it had been going on for a while. This was nothing new. I would say within 2 or 3 years of coming out of law school, something's not right. Like, I'm not in a position where, I'm being myself, where I feel like I can really be here to fulfill, my life's purpose. And then, what really kind of led to, I would say, the first big breakthrough, and you had actually mentioned this a couple of days ago, I think, when you went to a similar event, but I'll never forget the first time when I walked into a quarterly meeting with, how to manage a small law firm. And I saw people getting up to a microphone talking about how they ran a law firm that was making more than $1 million a year. I mean, my mind would, and there was all this positivity, all these people that were just doing these amazing things. And it literally blew just the fact that I thought it was possible at that time, and it
was like a peer was reflecting that back to you.
Yeah. Because you hear about it, you talk about it, but if the people you're surrounding yourself with, aren't at that level, it's just an intellectual exercise. But then when you actually see it, your mind can't argue with reality.
Right.
Then it starts to say, well, you can't do it. Maybe it starts to twist it a little bit. But once you see that, I think, it just completely changes everything,
Yeah, there's a law. The law of sacrifice says, in order to gain anything of a higher nature in your life, you have to be willing to let go of something from a lower nature. All successful people have the same 24 hours every day, and they have the same availability to resources as anybody else does. They just know what to do with it in a different way to maximize whatever it is that they're doing.
Well, let me tell you a story, David. So I remember being with my dad at the casino. I don't know when, this probably 12 years ago or so. And, I told him I want to make $1 million someday. And he says, well, how are you going to do that? He said, that's $83,333.33 a year. I was like, oh, well, you've thought about it. A month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, well, you've thought about it too then, because he had the idea, but he didn't know, we're not taught how to do it. And that's what ends up, stopping us from moving forward.
Well, that's the same thing that my parents would say to me.
Yeah.
My whole childhood, if I came up with something, they would say, how are you going to do that? And I had no idea. So that was the end of that. So we've worked together for a long time. A lot has been done. You've worked on a tremendous amount, tons of change going on. What's a memorable high point that you have during this process?
There's a lot, but let me give you one from a couple of years ago. Back in 2017, ironically, right when we first started working together, we took on a housing case that involved some individuals that were just living in really horrific all kinds of mold, water leakage, bed bugs, like just whatever you can imagine as being kind of the worst case scenario for that. And we'd never done a case like that with our firm before, but I listened to what they said and I said, we can't turn this person away. We have to help. And, 4 years later in 2021, we not only received over $2.5 million settlement, entirety for everyone that was a part of that case, but we also forced the sale of the building, and they did a $10 million renovation for the entire building. And so the living conditions that we were, trying to get fixed got fixed, and then we also got, some relief for the tenants, which is, it's just really cool to not only, there's that piece of it, the monetary piece, and like what you're doing for the living conditions, but I think a lot of people don't have others in their life that stand up for them and show them that people are out there that will stand up for them. And so, one of the things that we like to do in our firm, it's not just, we're solving their legal problem, but we're also showing them that, there's hope out there, that they don't have to be victims in their own life, that they can be empowered, to create something else. And I hope the people that we work with, the people that we touch in the community, just whoever, that if they can just see that, that's something that you can't measure, in terms of the settlement. So both in terms of what we accomplished, with the monetary piece of it, getting the building fixed, and then also, just being an example for the people in the building, it was a long journey with a lot of trials and tribulations, but we ultimately prevailed and found some great allies along the way, to do that. And, I don't know that I could have done it without you and, the mindset and all the things, that you teach.
Well, what would be, can you think of one significant change that you made in yourself that allowed you to have such a success with this case? Like, I couldn't have done it without making this change.
I think that was the road to really understanding what faith is. And not really knowing that at the time, but now I can kind of look back and connect the dots and look at all the things that happened. And, you know, you talk about the hero's journey,
Yeah.
you know, going through that process and coming through, you know, to the end when, you know, there were so many times where I don't know what's going to happen, you know, here. And being able to have that confidence to persevere through no matter what happens. And I think, you know, what you teach that to me is the most valuable thing is your peace of mind and your ability to handle and deal with problems as they come up, you know, in a rational, calm manner, you know, without reacting and having your emotional brain, you know, hijack whatever's going on with the situation. Because you talk about the truth, you know, what is the truth in this? That's such an amazing gift, you know, when you can get there.
Absolutely. Having said that, what would be the opposite? What would be a low point that you experienced during this transformation? Maybe something that was hard for you, something difficult to change.
I think that there's probably, let me give you two. The first one, I think, was really starting to own the fact that I was in control of my own life. And even though there were emotions and things that would happen, you know, I have to be the one to learn how to master those things, and being able to get myself to do what I need to do every day in order to accomplish my goals and the firm goals and whatever we're trying to achieve. And Steph, you know, worked me through a lot of that process.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of dealing with that core wound, which was one of the fundamental things that you taught, you know, that we as human beings all deal with is, you know, I'm not worthy, and, you know, I'm not lovable, and I'm not enough, you know, just those kind of core things, and really starting to get to the other side of that. And there were some dark times in there, you know, because that part of you doesn't necessarily want to be confronted, and that's not an easy process.
Right.
The second one, I would say, would be during COVID, the first three or 4 months, you know, when that happened. And it was just crazy, you know, you can look back now and just say, in terms of your mental health, in terms of dealing, you know, trying to run a business and trying to, you know, go through all those things. And
with a tremendous amount of fear and uncertainty coming from the outside world at the same time.
It was a low point, but I'm glad that it happened, because it's made me so much more mentally tough to know that, hey, that happened and I can get through it. And you know what? It's probably not the last time something like that is going to happen in our lifetimes.
Right.
You know, and thank you, you know, for you and your team, because that's part of the reason why I love doing business with you, because you're such a great example for, you know, everyone else out there, you know. And so when something bad happens, what do? Our instinct sometimes is to look internal, you know, protect yourself, you know, but you did the opposite. You said, how can I help people? You know, and you spread that message, and, you know, think about how many, you know, people's lives and businesses were impacted, you know, if you hadn't have been there, you know, sharing that positive message. So, you know. Yeah.
And it was rough for me too.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't all smooth sailing through there, but getting through those rough times and being able to come out the other side, that's really what's important, because we're always going to have that. Like you said, it's going to happen again in one way or another. We're always going to have the ups and we're going to have the downs. So tell me something big that you've accomplished lately.
Let me give you one personal and one business. So in business this year, we're going to finally cross the 7-figure barrier for the first time.
That's awesome.
What's even better is we're laying a much stronger foundation, you know, for the future to keep that repeating, and, you know, to have it be easy and effortless. And part of that is, you know, we hired a really amazing COO who has done a tremendous job in kind of complementing the things, you know, that I don't really do well.
Right.
And she actually went to the CEO Solutions program, you know, that you guys offered. That was amazing to work together through her, through that program with her, you know, to try to kind of like figure out where we're going to match and meet together. And that's just allowed me so much more freedom in the business and in my life,
for
you
sure.
know, to be able to do what I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
A personal thing is, about a year ago, a friend and I went to Africa and we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. That was a really interesting, fun, just an amazing experience, wonderful people. And let me tell you a quick story about that. So this is how I think sometimes your mind really messes with you. I had won the trip at an auction, asked my friend to go, And this was a conscious decision, to go over and to try to do this,
Sure.
But 3 or 4 days, it's an 8-day hike to the top, and 3 or 4 days.
What's the elevation up there?
Almost 20,000 feet. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Go ahead. I didn't know, so I want.
Yeah, it's a little under 20. It's an 8-day hike. 3 or 4 days in, there's a lot of things that are uncomfortable. It's 30 degrees when you wake up in the morning. You're in a different environment, a foreign language. The food's different, and I catch myself saying, "Why am I doing this? Why am I not on a beach drinking a margarita?" and then I remembered I made this decision. I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And once we take ownership of those choices that we make and fully commit and go through, everything else for the rest of the trip was amazing. Of course, my friend got sick and I was able to help him through it, and he made it to the top, which was amazing. But you wouldn't think that those things are related. But once you start seeing that, hey, this stuff applies to everything, how you show up in everything in your life. So that was cool. That little mindset thing made all the difference in enjoying that experience with everyone.
That's a hell of an achievement.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah,
I bet it
really
was.
cool.
What's the next big vision? Where are you going now? What's the future look like?
Our vision for our firm is to have the biggest impact on the world that we can. And we want to do that through taking individuals that are in financial situations that they find themselves in, where they kind of have a victim mindset, and show them the path to being empowered through that. So we have goals of hitting $10 million for the firm and doubling revenue next year, and having a lot of fun, because sometimes it's like, we do this business, we take it so seriously, and of course we want to succeed, but at the end of the day, like, if we're not having fun, is any of it really worth it?
That's right. It isn't to me. Well, to me, it's not.
Yeah.
Right. The money's, and people, I think that a lot of people don't understand this. There's almost as if there's this switch in your mind that where you go, when I get to this 7-figure level or somewhere around there, that something is significant is going to change. And with all the people that I've helped get past that level, they all say the same thing. It's not what I thought it was. Right. And I'll go, well, tell me what you thought it was going to be. And they go, I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are you happy? Right? Do you feel fulfilled on the inside?
Yeah.
And it's almost as if they're so focused on, let me just get to this place and I'll figure everything out later. And then they get there and they go, it really doesn't solve anything. I mean, my problems are much easier to deal with, absolutely no question about that. But then the next thing I hear is, I need to make my life happy.
Yeah. And you can do that along the way if you're conscious about it. But fortunately, that never really happens unless you're just kind of having that daily maintenance.
Right. Well, being happy is a decision, but making your life happy is a skill.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many pieces that are involved in that where you're dealing with other people. It's really learning a skill to be able to do that.
That's a great point. I've never heard you say that before.
Cool. Well, it's really great that you came down to do this. I really appreciate it.
This has been a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, man. Thank you.
Hey, thank you
You
for
bet.
everything. Appreciate it.